Hi, everyone. Welcome to the We Shape podcast. I'm Katie. I'm here with Tyler and Nina. How you guys doing?
Super
Doing
good.
okay, yeah.
Really,
All
really
right. Well, we're going to jump right in today.
We're going to do a quickie, right? A shorty but a goodie. Yeah?
I guess so, yes.
I suppose you could call it that.
Yeah. Well, what I want to share
Get your
with
minds
our-
out of the gutter.
What
you
I
two.
want,
Okay.
Good luck with that request. What I want to share is that we are doing some extra recordings over the next month or so because Nina's going to be going out on maternity leave.
Oh my
Yep,
goodness.
And so, I really wanted to see, like, how can we, like, I don't want to, like, just not release episodes. So we're doing some extra stuff today. So I know we have more time constraints, but I'm like, it's still worth it for us to meet. Nina had some incredible topics that she wanted to cover today. But if
Are you trying to say that quickies are still worth it?
Oh my God. Okay,
Whoa,
we're
this is
moving
going to be
on.
a weird podcast. Okay,
Moving
sorry
on.
guys. Sorry guys.
we did highlight earlier that we do have the explicit tag.
Yes,
So
we
now
do.
we know why.
And you're leaning in too hard. You're leaning in too
much,
hard.
too much.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Got it.
So, Nina. So, Nina, share with me, like, what you were hoping we would do today.
So one of the things I want to talk about today is, like, I think on this podcast we talk really frequently about kind of coming home to self and figuring out what, our body needs or how we feel. And I realized, this is something I've been practicing for a long time, and it's not something that comes super naturally. Like, we talk sometimes about intuitive eating, and then I'm like, how counterintuitive is it to actually check in with self and lean into what I actually feel in this moment and what I need in this moment. And so I wanted to bring some awareness to that and share our experiences with what we do in order to kind of strengthen that connection and make that little voice inside a little louder. Because I think we spend a lot of life, we've talked about this again on the podcast previously, seeking outside stuff. So someone tells you should do this, and you're like, I should do that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And very few times out of my, either professional life or personal life am I like, what do I really need?
Making
unless
a lot
I
of space for yourself.
unless
right?
I really actually make it a daily practice.
Yeah, and I think I want to start because I can see where this episode could go, and so I want to set very strong intentions that we might be sharing practices that work for us. But this episode is not about tips and tricks. The only way to get to, I think, what we're hoping all of us can get to, including ourselves. First of all, that journey never ends, but so there's not really a finish line, but is to go through it.
Yeah.
And and it's also
And to try different things.
and to try different things. But
And
we're
over
not
time, the tips and tricks change.
but that's what I'm saying is, like, we're not going to tip
Was
and
that a
trick.
bad joke? Nobody got my joke.
I didn't
Come
get it.
on.
We're not aligned today. We're not gonna tip and trick our way to self-worth. We're not going to tip
No.
and trick our way to deeper connection with self. However, we can hear the stories and practices of other that may inspire us to crack the door to curiosity
Yeah.
and try something else. So
Yes.
I want to be just really clear with that intention. So we're not on this podcast to should anyone.
No.
I just have curiosity, like, Nina, what are some ways that you show up? Tyler, what are some ways that you show up? And this is not for us to tell you to do that. It's for you to crack the door and say, oh, I didn't know that was a possibility, and I wonder if I go there, if deeper things will happen. But
And you're
peeling
the only one who knows.
Yeah,
right?
peeling the layers of the onion and finding deeper connection with self is hard work, and it takes time, and sometimes it's painful, and sometimes there's grief. But it also can be extremely fulfilling and rewarding. So I want to share that this is not an episode of tips and tricks. This is an episode to share personal experience in a way that people might be able to connect with that.
Yeah.
So
And I think sorry, I was going to say that I think that, what you can look at this as is like, hey, maybe there's a little tidbit of inspiration of something you could try, like you said, curiosity. And what I view this a lot of times as are tools to bring me back to self, right? And my toolbox is filled with the tools that I find work best for me.
Right.
And another thing to say is that, we've all been working on this stuff for a very long time. And I would encourage people to realize that you're not going to pick up all the tools at the same time. Right, like my personal journey of self-care is multi-decades long already, and so if you just finish this podcast and pick up one tool that sounds interesting to you, that's the win that we're after. I don't want people making a list of 48 tools and then being like, I'm gonna do everything, and then you're gonna just crumple and be like, why can't I do anything for myself? So
Yeah.
again, don't push yourself too far too fast.
And I think what I also want to add to that is, like, on any of our podcasts, really, when we're dissecting these things and talking about these things, I really want to give everyone who's listening permission to take what they like and leave the rest, right? Like, you don't have to adopt all of it. You can
Facts.
try try one thing that sounds cool to you, and the rest you can be like, I don't know, I don't really buy it.
Yeah.
It's totally up to you. It's completely a self-driven thing. So there is zero pressure to implement a million things in your life today. I think I just want to share the things that work for us and that what we practice each day.
I love it. So let's set the stage. So we're gonna personally share experiences or practice that can crack the door for people maybe trying something if they're feeling like, I don't know how to connect with myself. Like,
I've never done it before.
I've never done it before. And I have started learning how to do that, and I still feel that way all the time. So I just want to share that.
It's a normal
so
part.
why don't we start with one thing each, and then we'll see how much time we have, because I know we're on time
I
constraints
feel like
today.
Tyler's going to take us away with this, but
I know. So yeah, we'll start with Tyler.
I don't know if I should be the leader in this one. Like the one thing restriction is not going to work for me. So
Okay,
why
okay.
don't you just start and I'll
One
patch
thing
in a second.
restriction.
Tyler needs
I can't be restricted
a
to one
second
thing.
podcast for
Yeah.
this. I'll go because I feel like mine is a pretty simple practice. I do like to practice meditation. That's something I enjoy, but I think for a lot of people, it's not something they enjoy. So like, again, it can be 20 seconds of sitting quietly. It doesn't have to be an hour. People, I think, sometimes are like, it's got to be this long transcendent experience. And that's not true for me. I also like have a little, this is going to sound kind of funny, but it really, really works for me, like I said. But every day, at the middle of the day, which is I feel like when I am the most distracted, when I'm the most caught up in work or caught up in my own personal brain swamp where I'm thinking about all the things for tomorrow or what I have to do, whatever, I have a little reminder on my phone. And it sounds so silly, but it really, really helps me kind of drop in. And the little reminder on my phone says, how do you feel? What do you need? And it's so funny because I think we ask our friends all the time, like, how do you feel today? What do you need? And how many times have you been asked, like, how are you today? Probably.
yeah.
And you always say, I'm fine, thanks. But how many times do you ask yourself, like, what is going on with me today? What am I feeling? What do I need in this moment? And so in that little...
We're too busy to ask ourselves that
Exactly,
question.
right? But it takes 1 second. So I
Yeah.
have this little reminder on my phone. It goes off at 1 p.m., right around my lunchtime hour. And when that little timer goes off, I try to really take like just 30 seconds. And I do a little like deep breath. I do a body scan. I kind of check in, like, am I holding tension in any certain spot in my body? Am I holding on to a really negative thought maybe that I've had like all day long that I kind of need to maybe give a deep breath to and say, I'll deal with you when I have the time and space to do so. And then of course, what do I need? Does my body physically need something? Am I really hungry? Do I need to stretch if I've been sitting down for 6 hours straight? Do I need to go outside and sit in the sunshine for 5 minutes, you know? So those things change every day. It's not always, sometimes it's a glass of water. Sometimes it's a little walk, like sometimes it's calling a friend. So again, that messaging for me each day changes, but the little reminder on my phone is something that really, really helps me. And, we want to disconnect from technology. I'm sure everyone has like guilt around that. I'm on my phone too much, but sometimes it can actually be a really helpful
Yeah.
little
An amazing
thing
tool, yeah.
to help you with your schedule and to drop in, because I was not taught to ask myself how I was feeling.
Yeah.
Like that is not a lesson I learned as a young woman. It was ask people how they're doing, make sure that they're okay, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's something that's really helped me. I've been doing it for at least a couple years now. And I won't lie, there's days where I ignore it to tell this little reminder to remind me later. But it really has been something that kind of just brings me into that moment. Even if I don't make a practice of an action step after the fact, I do still go, aha, that's right. I want to build connection with self. I want to drop into what I need and what I'm feeling. And how can I turn that volume on that voice up a little bit?
And I think that that's actually really beautiful because it actually directly links to sort of the movement part of WeShape is like I think forget that we're in so much of our mind and the body has such infinite wisdom. And when we can remind ourselves to pause the mind, do a body scan and check in, there's a lot of really valuable information that can help us connect with ourselves better and meet very basic needs.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm guilty of that too. Like, oh, you didn't eat yet.
You haven't had
didn't
any
have
water today. So many times it is drink a glass of water.
It is.
Like,
I've seen
I
a
would
lot
say
of
9 out of 10.
functional medicine practitioners in my time, and most of them come back with, you're in really good health. You're dehydrated. You're in really good health. You're dehydrated.
Chronically
Your
dehydrated.
markers are wonderful. You're dehydrated.
Hey there, if you're enjoying the WeShape podcast and you've heard us talk about WeShape before, then you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, what is WeShape? Well, at WeShape, we create personalized at-home workouts for every single one of our members. These are workouts where every single movement is customized to you to help you connect with your body and care for your body in a much more meaningful way. We also have a community of people there to support you, to help uplift you as you examine your beliefs, set new intentions, and again, start showing up for yourself as an act of self-care rather than trying to do your workouts as an act of self-judgment. And hey, if you're a fan of the podcast, we also do a live podcast discussion group on Zoom, as well as other Q&As, as well as free challenges for all of our members to help you get motivated to actually start taking action to caring for yourself so you can feel better in your body and about your body. So if you want to try WeShape for free for 2 full weeks, go to WeShape.com/podcast and you can get started today.
So I think that that's a really phenomenal, simple practice. It doesn't even require an app. It's just set the alarm for daily and body scan and check in with body because there's
my mind is already doing enough.
Yeah.
She's
Let's
busy.
be real. Yeah. I love that one. I'm actually going to do that one.
I think you should try it. It's really
try it.
fun.
I'm
And
gonna
hey,
try
if you
that
hate it, delete it. It goes away. It's no big deal.
I love it. You want to go, Tyler?
Well,
I can
you
tell
choose.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm good either way. You tell me what to do. Okay, so
I'm still deciding on mine, so you go ahead.
I'm going to break this apart into 2 sections, okay?
Oh, geez.
This is how I'm going to approach this.
Oh,
The
this
first-
is a little bit of a rule twister. I just want to call that out.
Okay, well,
just
let me-
acknowledge you're bending the rules.
Hey, you're cutting into my time, all right? So 2 sections here. Section number 1 is just going to be the things that I've found really bring me a lot of rootedness and groundedness, okay? And these are just, again, things that you can try and see if they work for you as well. One thing, again, I would say is pick one thing. Try it for a couple weeks, 30 days, something. Give it an honest shot. If it feels like it's great for you, keep doing it. If it feels like it's distracting you or taking up too much time, don't do it, right? And go to another thing that calls you, right? And then the second section, I want to go into a little bit more about my own feedback loop on reminding myself to show up for myself and connect with myself. So for the first part, I've been doing so many different things and so many different experiments myself for multiple decades now. And the things that I found that serve me the most are the following. First of all, breathing practice. I think doing breath work every day, and that can be anywhere from slow, deep belly breaths to, fast pranayama style breaths to, Wim Hof style breathing, etc. That is an incredible way to bring you back into your body because you can't do the mind when you're doing that kind of thing. And just a simple tool for you guys, if you go on YouTube and you type in Wim Hof follow along, that video, there's a free video on there. It's got like 60 something million views. I'm about 6 million of those views. So that's a free one for you, right? So breathing, that's a fantastic one. Huge fan of hot and cold, right? Either hot bath and cold bath or cold shower. I'm a huge fan of saunas and cold plunges, saunas and cold shower. A lot of people don't like this, but the reality is that cold has like scientific proof that it can increase your dopamine levels, meaning you feel good as much as, get this, sex and cocaine, but it's more gradual up and more gradual down. Okay? So big fan of hot and cold. Mindfulness, a meditation practice. And what I mean by this is not probably, this Zen type of thing or whatever. It's just sit still and observe your thoughts. And, at first you're going to be like, I'm crazy. And then things will bubble up and you'll be like, oh my God, there's so much to deal with here. And eventually, if you're consistent with it, you find moments of silence and peace and presence. And that's what the goal, at least for me, was to get to. And I feel like it's still all over the place. But in those moments, I go, this is so helpful for me. Obviously, fitness is a huge part of my routine. I try to balance doing things to generate strength and flexibility, balance, coordination. I'm very big fan of yoga and stretching. And I think what people often do is they think you need to go to yoga class like 3 days a week. But if you guys walk around in my daily life, I'm basically just kind of stretching. Like
it gets weird.
It's weird. Yeah, it's like a minute here and then I'm a minute there, and so like just kind of making it a part of my day.
Anytime we onboard a new team member, I warn them.
Yeah.
Tyler's a weirdo. Tyler will be doing yoga during the meeting. Sorry.
Yeah, if you go to the beach with Tyler, like you're gonna see some bendy things.
Yeah. And then just making sure I nourish myself whenever I feel kind of, I'm like, okay, am I nourishing the things that I need? And what I mean by that is like, am I eating foods that are nourishing me? Am I giving myself the water I need? Am I giving myself the rest that I need, right? I think that's really important. And then also, trying to have a sense of practice of gratitude. And when I feel like in those dark moments, just pausing for a second and being like, okay, this is really hard, but let me see where I can find gratitude. Even if it's just this, I woke up this morning and I'm still breathing. Okay, there you go. I can find gratitude for that. Those are some of my most important and closely held practices that bring me back to myself. And again, just pick one and try it for a little bit, and don't don't judge yourself on, if you're meditating, I'm not doing it the right way.
I love what you said about breathing, because I feel like, you had a little bit of a laundry list, but I know that you're someone who like puts a lot of emphasis on that kind of self-care in your life. So like you have multiple practices, but for someone who's really starting out and is like, I don't even know what I really think or feel or how to get in touch with that. The idea of like tapping into body and doing a deep breath, doing a conscious breathing practice. We breathe while we're sleeping. We breathe when, all the time without thinking about it. And when you tap in and you do like a belly breath, oh my gosh, it like releases so many parts of your body. And that's all, tied into your vasovagal nervous system.
There's a whole
there's all the
scientific,
science behind it.
We can do a podcast on breathing one day, which would be fun.
It makes you feel really different to consciously breathe. And I think that's a really accessible tip.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, I know we're not doing tips and tricks, but it's an accessible one because we all can take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And that gives you an instant kind of pause.
Totally. Yeah. It's so important. And one more thing on the list here is I said gratitude, but I think it's important to also say space for other feelings. Right. I think that people have the sense of everything's supposed to be grateful all the time. I think you need to have space for anger and rage and shame and guilt and sadness and all these other things. And it's like when we stifle ourselves from those things, they build up in our body and then they get worse. Right. The anger that you expressed today could have been rage and like way more worse things tomorrow, or it could have been disease in your body at another point in time. So I want to make sure I'm sensitive to time on my section here. So I'm going to go to part 2, which is the awareness part.
Well, that was only part 1.
Yeah.
Oh no.
This one's a little shorter.
Okay.
So
Katie, you don't get to talk today.
Let's do it. It's okay.
I love what Nina said, which was that she has a reminder on her phone. I think that's an amazing thing. And for me, like, I ended up tattooing these things on the inside of my forearms.
He doesn't use his phone. We've already talked about this on a different podcast,
Yeah.
so the phone wasn't an option for him.
And like, why I did that was this, is like when I start to feel out of control and I'm like, whoa, maybe I'm casting blame outside of myself. I just literally like, okay, I'm going to go meditate. And when I meditate, I put my palms up and I look down and I go, am I having gratitude? Am I taking care of my body in a fitness sense?
It's quite literally a note to self.
It's like a note to self right there. And then right on my forearm, it says, the practice is the way, right? And that's a reminder that it's not about the outcome you're seeking in it. It's about the practice that brings you closer to it. So
beautiful.
Anyways.
You got 2 minutes.
So you're telling people to go get tattoos.
No, I'm telling people this is my
I'm just kidding. I was
here,
envisioning the person writing us saying,
your We-shaped tattoo images. We are available for that.
I might have this moment where I was like, are people going to send us pictures of their tattoos?
I'm actually, please send those to Podcast at WeShape. I would love to see them.
Yeah.
No, I literally got it right here. It's breathing and nutrition and rest and gratitude and all the things that are important.
If you're a literal person like our friend Tyler here, you can definitely go that route.
Yeah.
I love it. Mine is pretty simple. I have a really loud inner critic, and that inner critic wants to tell me that there's always room for improvement no matter how much I'm improving. And the problem with that is there's always room for improvement no matter how much you're improving. So one of the practices that I've been trying to hone in on, my dad used to tell me this growing up, and he clearly knew his audience. But I'm trying to actually embody. Hearing something and then feeling ready to embody something are very different things. So I'm trying to not just hear what he used to tell me when I was growing up, but I'm actually trying to do the practice of sitting with it for a whole minute and embodying it. And it's just a simple little note that says progress, not perfection. Because I feel like my inner critic is given permission to come out when I don't feel like I'm getting it perfect.
Yeah.
And so it's like something in my mind frequently, like just sit with that for 30 seconds. Progress, not perfection. And oftentimes what I discover is that just the self-awareness that I have that I want it to be better is progress, right? So I'm trying to lean in and trusting what that progress is, because I think that I've defined what progress means. But progress, there's more than one way to define what that means. So progress, not perfection. That's just a mantra in my mind that I try to sit with for 10 to 30 seconds. When I feel, the inner critic dial's now 10, time for your reminder.
And one thing you always tell me about the inner critic, which I always really appreciate, is like, would a friend speak to you like that?
That's ouchy.
I know we've talked about this before, but it's so true. Like, if I'm able to have a brief moment of awareness, like you're saying, and that's all it is. It's like awareness is such a powerful tool, but you just need a little tiny sprinkle of it to be like, oh wow, that's something I want to crack the door to curiosity on. But when you have that awareness of like that inner critic's really loud right now, she's a 10 or an 11, and you're like, literally anybody else who cares about me would not speak to me this way.
And in one of the, I mean, it's so true, because oftentimes what will happen is when I feel that, you know, if progress not perfection is not working for me, I will call you, and the first thing you will do is go, oops, I see you being too hard on yourself. And I'm like, oh, I've tricked Nina into believing that, you know, and then I'm like, I'm going to call Amy. Oops, I see you being too hard on yourself again. I'm like, damn it. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm so grateful that I have some close relationships that allow that reflection back to me, but I really want to get to a place in my life where that internal reflection comes in and says, oops, you're being too hard on yourself. Oops. So mine isn't a practice that has been all the way successful. Mine is progress. Mine is progress. Mine is in progress.
Oh
See, I went to go do it again. Well, I know we're out of time today.
Hold on. Can I just relate to that experience really quick? Because I think we have like 1 minute.
I think we have 1 minute.
Because I think that you're speaking to the human condition of like not feeling enough, not feeling worthy, and then beating yourself up over it. And you know, I have that same experience. Another thing that I try to remind myself of, I have a tattoo for this as well. And
you're gonna run out of space.
The tattoo on one side says Semper Milius, on the other side it says Tu Satis. And to me, that's the human condition of meaning. On one side it says become better, which is like that. Oh, I got to do better, right? And the other side it says you are enough. Right. And that's a strange dichotomy to hold, but how can you grow and work towards being, you know, this amazing version of yourself and recognize that you're enough right now?
Already
that's
enough.
Hard. Yeah. It's hard to do.
It is the human condition.
But the cool thing about it is it's fact. Like, you are born worthy, you are born enough.
Yes.
And like when we don't feel that way, that is something we get to practice progress over perfection with. But we actually are already good the way we are, even when we doubt that about ourselves.
You're good the way you are, listener. You hear that?
I think that's a great place to end it
love
on.
it.
Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll connect next week.
Send your tattoos.
Send me your tattoos. And if you get a We-shaped tattoo, we'll have to talk, because I cannot wait to see it.
If somebody got a We-shaped tattoo, I would personally fly them out here to be a guest on the podcast.
You heard it here. Podcast at WeShape.com.
I'm just kidding. Actually, I don't think I want to encourage that. I do not want to encourage that.
If you want to hang out, get a tattoo.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.